Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz. And if you're listening to the series, you probably know Aaron Schroeder even better, but here he is from Sacramento, Possible Chairs.
Good to see you, man. Good to be back.
Good to be back, and good to be back in a year. Well, let's just face it. Right now, we've had two games of the NBA Finals, and we are getting together not to discuss Halliburton or Shea, but the top 10 players of 2013. What is wrong with you? Why is this what you want to do?
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You
Yeah.
started this. This is all your fault. And then I
What?
feel like what's interesting, I do think we make content for in like the modern game talking about what's happening, but let's face it. If people are watching our content at this point, they do it for the historical stuff. That's what we're up to.
That's
That's
fair.
our
That's fair.
specialty. And the NBA finals can't stop that.
Fair enough. Well, we've got our top tens listed out. We're starting and going from 10 to 1, but maybe some honorable mentions thrown out there. Aaron, would you like to start us off with an honorable mention?
Yeah, absolutely. I have kind of a negative honorable mention. No, it's a negative season for the player, but maybe a
Okay.
slightly underrated. I wanted to talk about Dwight Howard just for a second. Like
The fall
Howard,
off.
the fall off of Dwight Howard, because he was in our top 10 for 2012, I think at 5. I think we ended up at 5 with him. He was a superstar coming to LA. His offense is what falls off a cliff. Now, he is getting these post touches. He's just not good at them. He's not a plus passer. His range ends where his arm ends. He's a terrible free throw shooter. But defensively, he still was so good. He still was
Hmm.
a top 5 defender in basketball. And his reputation took so much of a hit that maybe that people really kind of lost that. And he basically didn't get any like deep way consideration at all this season, despite him still being that level of defender. I would say when I look at the Lakers season, Kobe's obviously much better, but Dwight kind of in a disappointing way still anchors that defense.
Hmm. You also have the back issues starting to flare up for Dwight, getting worse just throughout the year. So he's starting to have some limited mobilities. But yeah, the drop off was just so sudden that it's like, okay, he had this year in LA. The next year he goes to Houston and it's like, can we try to rebuild and have a James Harden, Dwight Howard? Maybe it just wasn't a fit next to Kobe. And after a year, it's just like, no, it wasn't an LA problem. This is just new Dwight. He's not going to be the same guy again.
It's part of why like Dwight's career falls off so suddenly. Someone who like never added new skills and never really improved his game
Hmm.
after age 22. And so when his athleticism started to go, he just wasn't as good. He just wasn't as impactful. His offense VPM is negative in this season, and it was quite positive in the years prior. Um, I made a couple of videos on TikTok about like why Dwight didn't make the 75th anniversary team, and his like PR really starts to tank. 2012 in Orlando gets messy, and then to go to LA and be unpopular with the Lakers is just kind of an insane move. What do
I
you think? Tell me about like Dwight's image at this point and going forward.
so I mean, there was definitely a lot of I mean, there are a lot of just true diehard Laker fans who are not the most rational or most reasonable people in the world. I'm sure you've never met one of them, but
Hmm.
they existed at this time. And the fact that Dwight didn't want to be in LA kind of balked at being Kobe's number two, and this was the guy that Kobe was supposed to hand the car keys over to. Um, Definitely tarnished his reputation on a large scale. It was also like the most anyone ever got to see of Dwight because the Lakers have so many national media games. League Pass was not what it is today. I don't know if League Pass even existed in 2013, 2014, but if you were just someone that watched the league when it was on national TV, you probably saw Dwight Howard two, three times a year in Orlando, maybe more. Maybe I'm under exaggerating, being underinflating those numbers, but like the Lakers have 30 to 40 games on national TV every year. Or like the Lakers, even when Kobe was bad, like post Achilles tear, the Lakers are always on TV. And so if you're seeing them out there and you're seeing them struggle, and people are pointing the finger at Dwight, it really shapes the media perception. But I do want to touch on him not making the 75 team because it was both terrible from like an objective standpoint. Um, but I think it also says more to the fact that they left every member of the original 50 at 50 on there. So they were trying to get 25 guys for the last 25 years, basically. And that did kind of decrease the available spots. It wasn't like, all right, we're going to shove 30 guys in, we're going to bump 5 guys out. Because they also got in some guys that were the controversial guys left out of 50 at 50. They put on Dominique Wilkins. And so, like, there just weren't that many spots available. And I think it one speaks to Dwight's unlikability, and then two speaks to how poor the 75 at 75 like build criteria was.
Bob McAdoo also got added on, but the unlikability is such a big part. Like he left LA a villain. Houston was terrible, and then after that, like bouncing around from team to team, no one really likes him. He's not really taking basketball seriously. He gets to the 2020 Lakers. He finds this role. Congratulations. It took you 16 years to find some humility, and now you get it. But he had already burned every bridge, and no one liked him. And honestly, when it comes down to you have to hand ballots to people and say vote for the best players, and they see Dwight Howard's name, they're like, that guy is an unlikable man child. They don't cry. They don't put the check mark, and so I think you see like Dwight's basketball game kind of like dwindle off, and the fact that he just wasn't very well liked, especially because
It'd be, a,
Orlando went terribly as well.
it'd be a little bit like if you asked players to vote for the depoy, Rudy Gobert's never getting it. It's just an unlikability factor from players. That was not a very good honorable mention. That was a
Yeah, it
very good
was. No, but I
dishonorable
liked
mention.
him. No, it was an honorable because I had him 15th in a year where I left thinking like, man, he still was really good defensively, and it was such a terrible like bad year for him. But I wanted to appreciate some of the basketball like he was still giving.
I ranked to 14 and was like, this is a solid top 10. The other guys do not deserve rankings, but I don't think I would have them that high.
Well, who's yours?
My honorable mention is Kawhi Leonard, because I think this is
Okay.
the year that we start to really see the leap. He's not an all-star. He's not all NBA. But kind of the second half of the year and into the playoffs, like we'll talk about a lot of these other characters more later, but he has to defend Curry. He's a big reason, and his play is a big reason why the Warriors lose. And this is the Curry ascension, and there's nothing the Spurs could do with him in the early games. Then you get to the finals, and he's having to guard LeBron. And this is the year before they win, but like you're starting to see these flashes of like Kawhi is the next guy. This is not going to be the Parker Spurs for much longer. This is not going to be the Duncan Spurs for much longer. This is going to be the Kawhi Leonard Spurs as soon as he makes this leap. And it's not consistent enough for him to make the top 10 this year. But that the way he closes the year so strong, I think if you were watching this and you were making a list at the start of the next year and you wanted to be a hot take artist, you're like Kawhi is top 8 next year. I didn't do the research to check who did that, but I feel like it's a leap we should have all seen coming.
He plays the most minutes for the Spurs in the playoffs at 37, and up to his scoring 14 points a night, 9 rebounds per game. Like you start to see those defensive flashes. And yeah, I mean if we keep going chronologically, if the voters decide 2014, we'll see him eventually. Probably not next year, but we'll see him eventually.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to get started? Who's your number 10?
I had Marc Gasol.
Okay. I went with.
Go ahead.
I went with Steph Curry. Is Curry higher or off your board?
I had him 11. I looked at those two quite a bit. I kind of left thinking the defensive player of the year and just such an underrated offensive engine. His passing, his soft touch around the rim really kind of drove what Memphis was doing. And looking like through the playoffs, and they get a couple injury breaks against the Clippers and the Thunder, but you're playing like these huge front lines, and what Gasol's bringing was so crucial. Like Wall being their leading scorer, like Wall still being such a connective passer, and I mean Steph is well on his way to passing Mark, and I mean 2014 is a great year, but I don't know if I was there quite yet.
I'll, talk to me about Mark. I'm going to pull up a stat that I had for Mark and then apparently didn't get saved into my notes. So give me your Mark for stuff, and then I'm going to hit you with an awesome Marc Gasol stat because he leads the league in something.
Sure.
I want to see if you found it.
There's a 8-game stretch where he's averaging 5 assists per game, 19 points a night on 60% shooting. He's so efficient. He's getting his teammates involved. And it's interesting because we look at like centers averaging assists now. It's like, yeah, the best players have the ball and they generate assists. Jokic averages like 15 a game, right? But the 5 assists per game for Marc Gasol is insane for like this era. Being able to find cutters, being able to find open shooters coming off the block. Like I really felt like Gasol was kind of the engine behind what the Grizzlies were doing. His on-off split is plus 11, which is just fantastic. You know who does have the highest on-off number? That was Mike Conley, who I had a bit further down, but still, like Gasol is very impactful. Yeah, that's kind of my Gasol spiel. Defensive Player of the Year, like Andy was really good offensively.
I can't find it, but yeah, the on-off was one of the things that I had marked down was that he's 5th in regular season on-off. So that 11, or sorry, 6th in regular season on-off. He's 12th in MVP voting. Memphis is a very good squad this year. The playoffs do kind of fall apart. They are a first round bounce, but like
That's not true.
it's a. Did they make the second?
They make the conference finals in 2013.
What am I doing here? Swept by the Spurs. Or is it?
In 2014, they're bounced in the first round.
Ah, that's where it was. And that's where my stat came from. Is I just jumped forward a year somehow. All right, so then let me give you my Curry.
Does that change how you feel about this? Knowing he made, he made the conference finals.
Maybe that might be enough. But let me give you my Curry takes here. Curry was not an All-Star, not All NBA. He is 11th in MVP voting, and a little bit of that is just like there were a lot of really good guards. I mean, guards who placed ahead of him in MVP votings: Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant, Russell Westbrook, Tony Parker, and Dwayne Wade, James Harden. So like that's 6 guards ahead of him. That's why he's not on an All NBA team. But he really starts to shine in the playoffs. Regular season, he was 23 points per game, 7 assists. In the playoffs, Western Conference and semis, game 1 against in San Antonio, 44 points and 11 assists. The game is double overtime. Do you want to know how many minutes Curry plays in this double overtime game?
What, 50?
Higher.
54.
Higher.
50. How many minutes are in double overtime? 57.
57 and 56 seconds.
So the entire game.
Hey, it gets 4 seconds of rest. You really need that.
Yeah, okay. Got some. Yeah, I got a break.
Yeah. It just Curry started to be on a different level this year. And like the 3-point shooting is nowhere near the volume that he would see in later years. But I think it's a change into the guard season. It's your first year with like Harden in OKC. It's your first year with Curry showing up. It's Kawhi's playoff coronation against LeBron James. I think this year we didn't know it, but like the whole NBA was about to change.
And I'd say that Steph's 3-point volume was there in game 68 to 82, just that last stretch of the season. He's 28 points a night, 8 assists. He's shooting 47% from 3 on 10 attempts per game. Game 58 versus the Knicks in the Garden has 54, 6, and 7, and 11 3-pointers made. It's
you kind of want to put him there, don't you?
I kind of do. It's the best game score that year. That is the best game anyone played that season was that Steph game. And it's the 6th best Steph game ever. All right, I'll do it.
You'll do it?
Who'd you have at
That's
9?
interesting. Well, so I'm intrigued by this because I had one guy between Curry and Gasol in my kind of tentative out rankings.
Mhm.
Um, and I think this means he's not going to make either of our lists. At 9, I had James Harden.
Well, I had Harden at like 6th.
Okay.
I liked
Who is
Harden.
your
I
9?
really liked
Okay.
Tony Parker.
Okay. I got Parker up
Yeah.
at 7, but
Okay.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Who's your 11?
So my 11 was Dwayne Wade.
Okay, then we're good. Because I had Wade at 12.
I think this is just so sad. Um, because Wade was 10th in MVP voting, and I think if I just looked at regular seasons, I would also have him there. But
Mhm.
the Curry playoff explosion, the rise in the second half of the season, and then the way Wade kind of tailed off. Um, in the where is I wrote down his on offs here. Regular season, then the team is plus 12.8 with him on, plus 3.4 with him off. So still, still better on, quite significantly.
Mhm.
In the playoffs, he is massively negative of off. When he is on, the team is 3 points better than their opponents. When he is off the floor, they are 17.6 points better. And I know on offs are a touchy thing, and they indicate they don't tell a full story. Um,
Mhm.
but when you go back and you watch these games, and that was one of the things I did for this, was going back and watching some of the 2013 Miami Heat finals run. LeBron's on a different tier and he needs shooters around him. And the offense grinds to a halt with Wade out there versus having Shane Battier, versus having Ray Allen, even Mike Miller, who's getting starts. Like, it just stopped being as effective to have Wade out there. His athleticism, and he does get injured in the finals, um, and plays through it. But like, it's sad that we're seeing the fall off of Wade,
Yeah.
just so dramatically in the playoffs. That's due to some injuries.
It
Uh,
is so interesting because we'll get to this, but this is the last elite season, or like I guess 2012. It's amazing. Yeah, 2012 is the last like superstar season for Kobe, Wade, and White, like all at the same
mhm,
time. Totally different careers, way different starting points, different trajectories, and they all end that way. I think the Heat knew that they needed Wade to win the championship. And that ends up being true because he
mhm,
averages 24 and 5 in the finals and has 32, 4, and 6 with 6 steals in game 4. It's the fourth best game score out of the entire playoffs that year. He has his big finals moment, but they kind of drag him along throughout the playoffs. He averages 14 a night, 13 a night. 15 a game, basically like, mid-teens scoring with this knee injury that he's nursing. And so I really couldn't see him as a top 10 player, even though throughout the regular season, he's this elite two-way player. He averages 23, 6, and 6 during their massive win streak. He is that superstar, but his body just
mhm,
breaks down.
mhm. Yeah, you said that his game 5, his game 7, he's 23 points and 10 rebounds, but also it's a 7-point Heat victory, and they lose Wade's minutes by 2. Like, that's a 9-point on-off swing. I know it's not everything, these on-off numbers. I sorry that I have to keep bringing them up, but
I
they
like him.
just
They matter.
yeah,
It's a
they,
piece of the
they do.
puzzle,
But
right?
it's a piece of the puzzle. I want to make sure that that is clear, that this is not a all-encompassing argument. But all right, so Wade's off both of our lists. Curry is our number 10. Give me your high James Harden case. I have no problem moving him up, but
Mhm.
I'll I can make my case for kind of pushing him down as well.
I just think he's automatically like an S tier offensive juggernaut. He is this like James Harden offensive mastermind that we're going to see for the next, until 2020, basically the next 8 seasons. He's 26, 5, and 6. He has a 16 game stretch averaging 30. He gives OKC with both Harden and Durant playing 47, 7, and 6. He is as unguardable as he's gonna be. Like it's a very quick arrival, but he's there. And when I think about like what Tony Parker's doing or what Duncan is doing, like those guys, I think Duncan had the defense and Parker had the offense, and together they can be a great team. Or
Mhm.
for Paul George, who I have coming up, like he's a part of this amazing defense. Like Harden is just Harden. The Rockets are great on offense because they have like the ball in James Harden's hands.
Do you know how many wins they had the prior year? It's
Four.
a shortened season. It's a
Oh,
shortened season, so it equates out to being a 42 win pace.
mhm.
They won 45 games this year with Harden. While
Who? Go ahead.
Harden's scoring does jump up, it jumps from 16.8 to 25.9. So
Mhm.
what is that? That is be great if I could do math. 9 point improvement. That's a substantial jump in scoring. His assists go from 3.7 to 5.8. So that is a substantial assist improvement and with those two. But at the
Mhm.
same time, his efficiency takes a nosedive. His last year in OKC, his effective field goal percentage, so weeding out free throws but balancing for threes and twos, is
Mhm.
58.2% and dropped to 50.4. He's getting there. He's gonna rise. We're gonna get the 5 straight years of at worst second for MVP from him, but he's
Yeah,
just not there yet. Um,
I
you
think
know,
he is. I just think he is. I think he is that good.
okay.
I mean, looking at like the Rockets trade out basically Lowry, Goran Dragic, and Kevin Martin as their guards, like for this Harden experience, and he's as good as all of them, like wrapped into one. I really feel like, I mean, looking at his efficiency, it's a pretty reasonable drop.
this man's as the man's as good as Kevin Martin, Goran
And
Dragic.
Lowry
Like
and Dragic wrapped into one person. Well, he's able to make up for basically this entire like new system. I don't
it
know.
is.
He was 8th in
It's
MVP voting.
yeah. Duncan and Parker were 6th and 7th.
Yeah, but that was bad. There's there. I
I
do you really think that Tony Parker is better than James Harden at this point?
I think I would trust Tony Parker more.
Like, I mean, trust versus like you have to build a team around somebody. Who are you
Well,
taking? Yeah, I trust him in a big game in the Spurs, system in the Spurs organization, but Harden was still good.
I'm trying to think of like the modern comparisons and of like players from this year where
Mhm.
like sure Trey Young puts up numbers and drives an offensively efficient like yeah, yeah, if you give Trey the ball a bunch of times or if you give LaMelo the ball a bunch of times, like he'll put up
No, but
numbers.
geez, but they
But
don't win. LaMelo wins 15 games, and Young has been 500 his entire career. Harden had
that's what
one
Harden
chance.
is
No,
500.
he 40. He won. Well, it's 45 and
45.
30. Yeah, but it's
Okay, so
saying like
that's
the expected win loss is 50 though. The net rating is the ninth best. This is a top 10 team in the NBA,
so the expected win loss is better than what the actual record is. So they're dropping
which is
close
good.
games.
Don't spin that as a dropping close games thing. That's not a dropping close games. That is they had the eighth best SRS in the league. It's not close to 500 basketball. They're an elite team.
Sounds kind of like 500 basketball. I will give you this.
Eighth in the
He,
SRS sounds like 500 basketball.
I think 45 wins sounds close to 500 basketball.
It's more than 45 wins. And I guess let's look at like the
It's 45
previous
wins.
season.
It's 45 wins.
Well, no, but
They were on
still,
pace.
like the
They
previous
had
year, the net rating of 0.2, the 18th best in the league. SRS of 0.57, the 16th best. That's an average team. And now they're 8th and ninth, so into the top 10, given like that switch.
what are the Spurs?
They have two of these guys. That's
uh,
why this. Who is your honorable mention? The only is Kawhi Leonard. Your honorable
yeah.
mention and Tony Parker. It's every single Spur makes the top 10.
Hey, I wanted to shout out the rise.
Okay,
I
so
will
who do
give
you
you
have?
a nice number for Harden.
Hmm.
He is fourth in playoff WARP and box plus minus, which
Hmm.
box plus minus is the per 100s. It's so doesn't matter how much you play. Doing that on both the volume and the efficiency to be at fourth for both those two is impressive in my mind. It's limited minutes because he's a first round exit.
Hmm.
Um, but going up against OKC, 26, 7, 4.5 assists, 2 steals, not bad. Pushes him to 6.
Certainly. I'm positive that the Spurs win the title with Harden over Parker. I'm sorry. I'm 100% sure.
Okay.
Like Tony
Okay.
Parker's very good. He was a very very good player, and I just there's something that Harden in like the changing like this like very maybe look at this season as like the changing of these guards,
I think you
and
just hate
Harden is a
Parker.
part of that. I
You're just
like
against the
Tony
Frenchman.
Parker. I like Tony
No.
Parker.
Aaron just hates France. We
Okay,
know it.
so who you
It's
you
okay.
had? Who
Your
is your number
girlfriend
8?
your girlfriend moved away. She went to France for a time, and you've been
She
sad. You've
did
been
go to
mad
France.
against the
I hate the
Frenchman ever
French people.
since. Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel about Sar or Risachet? Are they going to be superstars?
You already yeah, so you did. I did hate Sar. I hated your
Uh
Sar
huh.
pick for the
Uh
All
huh.
NBA team because he was terrible all year.
Hey, Aaron,
That was a potential pick.
how do you feel about Rudy Gobert?
I like Rudy Gobert. You know I like Gobert. We all like Gobert
How do
in
you,
this
how do you feel
podcast.
about Evan Fournier?
I have no feelings of Evan Fournier. Do you like
Mm,
Evan
mm.
Fournier? Do you see him
Everyone loves
punch
Evan
that?
Fournier.
Did he punch somebody? I could have
He
sworn I
definitely
saw Evan
dick punched
Fournier.
someone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was that recent?
I think it was the 2019 Olympics, the
No,
Japan year.
I swear
No,
to
the
God, I just saw.
2021. Sorry.
I just saw
Hey,
him.
listen. You know what they say? It's hard to break a
Yeah,
habit.
controversial gesture. He was like jerking off to the crowd. Anyways, okay, who is your eighth guy?
So my seventh and eighth are
Mm,
Tony Parker and Tim Duncan, and I did put Parker above Duncan, but I will accept them in whichever order.
okay, wait, sorry. We have Steph. Who's so who? I need your 9, 8, and 7. It was Harden.
Seven, 7 and 8 are Tony Parker and Tim Duncan,
Uh,
the two Spurs guys, and I'll accept them in either order. But I did put Parker first, and then James Harden was my 9.
it's interesting because I think I had Duncan above Parker. I'd almost prefer like a Duncan Harden Parker split
I can work with that.
going down. Parker as the 9.
I can
Why
work
do you
with
think
that.
Parker? Why? Tell me why you feel like Parker is better than Duncan.
So, just looking back over the year, I felt like Parker was more of the driving engine. Um, Western Conference Player of the Month in January, baby. 22 points, 8 assists, 57.5% effective field goal percentage. He doesn't have a lot of the advanced numbers, and a lot of the advanced numbers are very mean towards point guards. They're just the way they're written are not the greatest. It's Parker's arguable best season, sixth in MVP voting, highest points per game in his career, 20 points, uh, second highest in assists per game, 7.6. Um, he found ways to be effective in the playoffs. They sweep the Lakers, and like you don't need much of Parker, so I do think that depletes some of his minutes and overall numbers. Um, Memphis again is a sweep where Parker is good, figures out ways to play. Like game 2, he's 6 for 20 from the floor, but he's putting up 18 assists. Like
Mm-hmm. I
that's
mean, let's be
really
clear. Parker's phenomenal in the Western Conference playoffs. That's why he's so good.
yes,
He dismantles those teams.
yes. Um, yeah, game 4, 37 points on 15 for 21 from the floor. Just insane. In the finals, he strains his hamstring in game 3, putting up 6 points and 8 assists. Like he's limited to just 27 minutes and is not quite the same for the next couple of games. I think that's a fair critique to hold against him. We did hold Wade's injuries against him, but Parker delivers this this quote about his hamstring. If it was the regular season, I would rest like 10 days. But it's the NBA Finals. If it gets a tear, that's life, which he's French, so he's probably like, c'est la vie. And he's clearly not the same. But in game 5, if with it tied 2-2, he puts up 26 points on 10 for 14 in shooting, and then just kind of goes all out, and then it definitely aggravates. It gets a lot worse. And then game 6 and 7, he's 9 for 35. So, I don't want to hold the last 2 games against him where we know he is playing through a massively strained hamstring, risking tear, giving it his all. And those games, you could really you see that he could really be used more. The Spurs try to lean more into Duncan, and it works a little bit in 6, but in 7, it's just not there.
Yeah, I really love what Duncan could do defensively, and he's also so good in the finals. I do love Tony Parker. The rim pressure he was able to create for someone who basically could not dunk, and the transition buckets, making all the right passes. He wasn't like he's not the superstar necessarily, but he does all the right things, and he makes the Spurs offense go. I really do think Harden over him is right, but it's a testament to how consistent he is and how fundamental his game is. That these guys are clearly different tiers of talent and ability, and the next season is going to show that. But the fact they're right next to each other, like, really does show Parker's value.
And game 6, the overtime loss, Parker gets 4 field goal attempts. They go to Parker again and again and again, and he goes 0 for 4. He is hurt. He is laboring, but it is still like the Spurs in their do or die moment to try to win the title. That's who they're going to. I think that really shows the need. Like, for Parker, they subbed out Tim Duncan. This is the famous, we subbed out Duncan because we needed to go offense, defense, then we got trapped on defense, and we don't have Duncan out there. And I think that it's one of the greatest coaching blunders by one of the greatest coaches. Like, we can watch Charlotte Hornets game from the last decade and find 8 worse blunders, but like, I think the fact that the Spurs kind of anointed Parker. We have the voters anointing Parker throughout the course of the regular season. We have the Spurs kind of anointing him in those last few minutes of, we desperately need someone to get us over the hump, even though Duncan has had a 30-point game and is 30 and 17 that game. Like, he's fantastic. They're still saying, no, Parker's our guy to try to close it out, despite the injury. That to me indicates that people in San Antonio were in favor of Parker over Duncan this year. You're on mute.
That's so tough. I'm having a really hard time like these 3 guys. Can I ask who's your 6th guy? To make this more complicated. Can you hear me?
Sorry, what was that?
Who's your 6th guy?
Yeah, you just glitched for a moment. My 6th guy, to add complication, is Russell Westbrook.
Fuck. Okay. All right. Russell Westbrook. It's funny because
I'm not
I had
opposed to
Paul
Russell
George,
Westbrook.
and I was looking at that, and I was like, I bet Nate doesn't have George. And then I looked down, and I was like, God damn, he's totally gonna have Russell Westbrook, and I have him like way down at 13. That's not good. I came away really liking Paul George this season. This is one of the greatest defenses ever. His on-off number is fantastic for it. And he just really develops into such an impressive scorer, an offensive player, like a playmaking forward in 2013, like, while being like an all defensive caliber wing, averaging like 25 and 5, essentially getting his team to the conference finals. I just really liked it. You felt like Westbrook, I know Patrick Beverley like just pile drive Westbrook's a knee and kind of ruined it, but you had Westbrook at 6.
I thought Westbrook had just so much better of a regular season. That yeah, yeah. I mean,
Man,
so Westbrook is ninth in MVP voting, but gets All NBA second team over Tony Parker and over
yeah,
um, James Harden. And I think a lot of that kind of comes down to the differentiation of like All NBA is recognizing the better player, and most valuable is like value to team. And the Spurs had the best regular season, and so like that bumps them up in MVP voting. But when we break that away, we talk about like the caliber of guys. Russell was a better guy than them.
at 6. I don't even. I'm trying to find a way to compromise this, where it's like we still haven't set the Parker, Duncan, Harden thing, but it's like I really feel like I'd rather have Steph than Westbrook.
I think the playoffs just hurt him that much. The fact that he is just,
No, I think Steph is instantaneously more efficient, more effective, and better.
but he wasn't over the course of the regular season. And
Yeah,
everyone that watched the
he was. I get that. I get that. Do you think maybe we didn't understand basketball super well? Man, where is Blake Griffin for you? Did you have him one of your?
no, don't try to bring Blake into this.
And I was just saying, I didn't. I was talking to Kev loves NBA because he did the top 10. He had Blake. He had Blake in the top 10. I didn't. I don't know. Wasn't as into it. I guess
No, it's a terrible call. Blake,
for Blake Griffin. I
listen,
thought he was good. He was second team All NBA.
yeah, I considered him for my 15th guy over Dwight Howard, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
I should waste less. I should spend less time. Okay, if we're gonna rank less players, we need to get these out quicker. That's the trade off. I mean, we're I feel like we're at such an impasse. My 6 is your unranked, and your 13 is my 6. I mix those up, but flip basically everything that I said.
All right. So the bigger problem, though, is that we now have 6 players for 5 spots. Because if you're bringing Paul
Yeah,
George back into this, and I've got Westbrook, it sounds like both of our 6s are off of the others' boards, which I do think speaks to the tiers of guys here.
yeah,
Because like I heavily considered Marcus All with Steph Curry. I belabored bumping out Dwayne Wade because he is so good in the regular season. Um, I think, in fairness, the best way to do this may be to just bump Westbrook, which is harsh, but we're bumping or we're knocking Wade, who has a very comparable regular season, for a
yeah.
disastrous playoffs and a true fall, and we just don't even get a playoff from Westbrook. I mean, it's 2 games.
I kind of disagree in a way. Now I'm gonna argue for Westbrook.
God,
I kind of This is why, because Westbrook gets injured and then doesn't play. And we know that when he comes back, he's
mm-hmm.
still Russell Westbrook. We see Wade be terrible. We see him play like shit. We know he isn't good anymore. And so that's kind of like the difference. If Wade is just gone, then you're like, well, maybe, he's just not there. But like we know that the Wade fall off is here. It's happening. We can see it in real time.
I figured out the compromise.
All right, what's our list of guys?
Curry at 10,
Okay.
Harden at 9,
Okay.
Tony Duncan at 8, Russell Westbrook at 7, and Paul George at 6.
Are you combining Tony Parker and Tim Duncan into one guy?
Yes.
Okay.
We just
I really
actually, if
I
we're
let me
gonna
talk
if we're
about
gonna
George
morph
for
them,
just a
they should
second.
probably be 6.
It's nice that, like, I think the order after this is chalk. I imagine we have the exact same top 5. Paul George in game 1 of the Eastern Conference first round, 23 points, 12 boards, 11 assists. A great Paul George closeout game against Carmelo's Knicks, 23, 5, and 4. In games 5 and 6 against Miami, 27, 11, and 5, then 28, 8, and 5. I really felt like by the end of the year, he was playing like a superstar. And I like him more than what Westbrook was doing or what Harden was doing. Like the two-way stuff, the offensive impact, what he's able to do in these playoff games.
Can you read those numbers back to me?
Sure. Which ones? All of them?
Well, so I'm pulling them up because I was like, why was I less attracted to this during the regular season?
Did
He
I
wins
go through the
MIP.
wrong playoff run?
I kind of wonder if you do the same thing I did with Gasol and looked at 2014.
You're kidding. Who'd
So
they
I'm
play
looking
in
at
the first round in 2013?
2013 first round Hawks, Knicks,
Yeah,
Heat.
Hawks, Knicks, Heat. No, that's right.
Yeah, but your regular season numbers, I'm looking at 17 points, seven
Mm-hmm.
and a half boards, 4 assists. In the
Yeah.
playoffs, that goes up to 19 points, still 7.5 boards, 5 assists.
Yeah.
Um,
I was reading off individual games.
okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So he had like a triple double in the first round, a really good closeout game against New York, and then 2 really big performances against like the Heat in the conference finals. I mean, especially against the Heat, man. I mean, like he plays the top competition. The Knicks, I mean, the Knicks were favored in that series. They had finals aspirations and they just get crushed. Let me think of an order that works. How about Curry at
Yeah,
10. Curry at 10. You can do Westbrook at 9. What if Curry gets bumped out?
I think we may have to.
Because he's not an
Just
all-star. He's not an all-NBA player. And we're kind of going off this last bit of the season and what's to come.
But that's also what we're doing for Paul George. Although we could
I'm not doing
do
that.
the
He was all-NBA player.
yeah, because the forwards were a bit weaker. Like
Hmm.
Curry.
Were they?
If we
With
just
Carmelo Anthony and Kevin Durant and LeBron James?
if we just zone out or zoom back, like Curry is the best player in the or is the best on-off player in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Like
2 rounds.
2 rounds, but still, that means he lost. I'm just
All
gonna
right.
say it. It's easier to have better on-off numbers when you win more games.
Westbrook at 10. Because you had him at 6. And that you had him over Curry. So don't argue with me about that.
Yeah. Can we keep him over Harden? I think we should keep him over Harden.
Okay. Let me
Because when we
go
also talk
Westbrook
about
at
like
8.
we talk about Harden making or forcing this to game 6 in the playoff numbers, he also it's the playoffs versus OKC less or a Westbrook less OKC for most of this, and like that catches up to Durant. There are some where are Durant's playoff numbers here? Durant after game 1 of the first round, Durant averages 45.2 minutes per game for the rest of the playoff run.
All right, I have our order. Figured it out.
Tell
Tony
me.
Parker at 10, Hart at 9, Westbrook at 8, Paul George at 7, Duncan at 6.
Really? You moved Duncan up that much?
That's just where he ended up. You want to move Duncan down?
Yeah, let's move Duncan down.
All right, to where? Below Westbrook? Above Harden? Where should Parker and Duncan be 9 and 10?
That would be Sabal. I want Parker and Harden married at the hip. Parker and Duncan are 9 and 10. Or sorry, not Parker and Duncan. Parker and Harden, 9 and 10, married at the hip.
Duncan is above
Duncan.
Hart.
Yeah, Duncan can be 8 or 7. Him and Parker, or him and Westbrook, you can flip flop. I don't care how you do those two. Then we'll put PG at 6.
Let's do Duncan above Westbrook because he fucking makes the finals. He makes the finals. But all right, and then Paul George ends up at 6. You didn't like Paul George? My beautiful offensive, defensive, best 2-way player in basketball.
for a half a season until Kawhi shows up.
This are we doing the top 10, doing the top 10 players of half seasons or of 2014? Because he's way better offensively. And oh, give me a fucking break. He's so much better than Kawhi Leonard this season. He's twice as good.
Yeah, sure. He averages 17 points, and Kawhi averages 14 points.
No,
Twice as
does
good.
Kawhi average 14 points?
And was he get in the finals?
Yeah, Kawhi averaged 12 points a night in
That's basically
58
14.
games. Give me a break.
What do you get in the playoffs? You got the numbers there.
13 and a half.
14 sounds like to me.
And Paul George is averaging, let's see,
Guys,
19, 7, and 5. Oh my God. All right.
listeners,
Okay. All right.
listeners, I apologize. I've been on Zoom calls before this for 7 hours and 45 minutes of my workday. So it was a long time on Zoom. A little slap happy here.
I do not apologize for any of this. You want a top 10 of 2013. This is how it shakes out. I thought the last year we did worked so well, where I was just like, oh, me too. This is great. And all of a sudden realizing that we just have nothing in common. But I imagine our top 5. Do you want to read our top 5, or do you want us to go one at a time? Because I think it's going to be the same.
We'll read it and then go one at a time.
Mhm.
5 is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
4 is Carmelo Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
3 is Chris Paul.
Yep.
2 is LeBron James.
No, keep going.
2 is Kevin Durant. 1 is LeBron James.
There you
go. Yeah.
Easy top 5.
Yeah. Let's start at 5 with Kobe. 5th in MVP. Maintained his prior season scoring in volume at 27 points per game, but he hit huge jump in efficiency from jumping back up to 57% true shooting, which is just a big thing for Kobe because efficiency is not always there. Also ties a career high in assists per game with 6. So suck it, those Kobe can't pass people. Has 8 40-point games, 2 of which are 40 and 12s or 40 plus and 12 plus assists. This Kobe tears his Achilles, of course, on April 12th, with a few games before the playoffs, and the Lakers proceed to lose in the playoffs by an average of, would you like to guess how many points per game they lose?
Man, the Spurs mercy killed them. 12.
Higher.
18.
18.7. Yeah. Just up, like, there's getting swept. And then, like, the way OKC took out Memphis, where they just blew them out by like 40 something points that one game. It was just like that every game. It was one of the saddest playoff experiences of my lifetime.
It's a pretty bad one. I looked at this Kobe season as just, it's like Icarus in a way. He flies so close to the sun. But you know what drives Kobe more than anything? Spite and rage. Just pure anger. Just looking at Dwight Howard's stupid face every day. He's like, you know what? I am going to pass my teammates. I'm going to play every minute of every game because I hate you. He finishes this season, the last 23 games, averaging 29 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, solid efficiency. Game 79 versus Portland, right before the Achilles tear, 47, 8, and 5 with 3 steals and 4 blocks. I think the Achilles giving out shows that this wasn't sustainable and his body was going to break down doing this. But it's the one last, like, fuck you. I'm Kobe. I'm going to win all these games on my own. I'm good enough to do it, even at his age.
Mm-hmm. That Achilles could have only made it 6 more games. 6 more games. They could take a little rest. Number 4, Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is the only player to steal what would have been a unanimous MVP first place ballot vote from LeBron James. Not Kevin Durant, not Chris Paul. He gets 1 MVP vote. He is 3rd in voting for MVP, 2nd team All NBA. Eastern Conference Player of the Month of April for back-to-back years. Y'all know that's something.
Let's
And important.
go. Woo.
He leads the league in scoring, 28.7 points per game, third in usage, 12th in box plus minus, 13th again in VORP. True shooting added. Do you want to guess where? I've been doing a lot of these. Do you want to guess? But I just find this so much fun. Do you want to
I'm
guess
gonna
where
guess.
he ended in true shooting added?
I think it's pretty good. I have to think it's pretty good because it's pretty good efficiency and just crazy volume. Is it good?
He added 87 points by true shooting efficiency.
It's not very good.
No, that's
No,
25th
but
in the league.
man, the volume is just insane. He kind of reached the point where he was able to have this team of role players, of defensive players that
Mm-hmm,
needed someone to be their entire offense. And he was good enough to
mm-hmm.
do that. And to be might look at the season and say, man, how could he have taken an MVP vote from LeBron? He was that good. He really was. Game 66 to 80, he averaged 33, 9, and 2. 33 points a night, 2 assists, all buckets. Pure buckets from here on out, 49% shooting. And the Knicks are 14 and 1. He has 8 40-point games that season. In a game against the Heat where LeBron and Wade did not play, he put on a show. 52 and 2. 50 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, strictly buckets. But it worked. But it worked. The Knicks were really good. It's the best Knicks season at the time since the Ewing years. They beat the Celtics in the first round, in which he's incredible. 36 points, 34 points, 26 points to take a 3-0 lead. Not as good against Indiana, but looking at that series, in game 6, he has 39 points on 15 to 29 shooting. The rest of the Knicks shoot just 33%. He's the only Nick that shows up. At the same time, like, he's the only Nick that is shooting the basketball, and he's not exactly going to help his teammates like in his offensive efforts. But there is no other Nick in double digit for game score, and the Pacers space the entire starting five is in double digits. It's a kind of it's a whole team versus a one guy thing.
Yeah. One more note on the regular season before I touch on playoff stuff. Regular season, the Knicks with him are 47 and 20, very good record. Without him are 7 and 8, sub 500. So he is driving the boat, and there are noticeable and appreciable losses when he's not there. He did have a great series against Boston from a scoring aspect of 29 points, but he did it on 41% effective field goal percentage, 40.9. Whereas the rest of the Knicks, actually the Knicks as a whole, including him dragging them down, were 46.2 effective field goal percentage. Melo's offensive and defensive ratings were both 97 points per 100 possessions this against Boston. With him off the floor, or actually not off the floor, but just the Knicks as a whole, and counting him pulling them to 97 both ways, were 98.9 offensive rating and 92.9 defensive rating. So in the playoffs, we do have like a really efficient scoring in here, and he does dispatch with Boston. We also have a lot of indications that the Knicks shot better when he wasn't doing that as much, and were both better offensively and defensively when he wasn't there. And so
Why
for
is he
me,
a top
that's
4 player, Nate?
well, he's a top 4 player because he did all of this over the course of the regular season. The question is, why is he not top 3 like he was at the end? And I think that's some of the playoff things do just hurt him a bit.
I had done the top 10 for every season from like 2000 to 20. I guess you've done 2012 now. I don't think Melo made it one time. And that felt really strange. But looking back on his career, the fact that he was mostly third team All NBA, like mostly just an All Star, he really did kind of exist within the fringes of an All Star, like 2 maybe an All NBA. But he's more of like a top 20 to 15 guy year in and year out. At least that's what I found. And you have this one season where he is efficient enough and valuable offensively enough to make it worth it. Maybe it kind of
I
skews what people think of Carmelo after that because they look at this crazy Knicks year and be like, he was always this good, when that really just isn't the case.
I think the thing that will always skew with him is that like there was him and LeBron, and they were buddies, they were boys, they played the same position, they came in the same draft year, and so you like thought of them in a very similar mindset, and, and they're different levels, but it was always like he's not that much farther behind that like you thought of them in the same way we might think of like a gap between a Curry and like a Jalen Brunson, and for years.
Yeah.
Um, but this is, you know, like this past season that just ended, the gap between Curry and Brunson is really small. And like this year, I think 2013, maybe it's a bigger gap than what Curry and Brunson were last year, where that you could have some sort of a debate. But like if we thought about Curry and Brunson for the last 10 years, it's Curry. Brunson wasn't even in the
What a
league that long, but
fantastic comparison. Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry, the debate we've all been having.
yeah, you know what I'm trying to say here. All
I
right,
know what you're
let's
trying to
let's
say.
let's do Chris Paul. Fourth in MVP voting, all NBA first team, all defensive first team, 11th in DPOY rankings. We gotta juice the voters a little bit. Get Paul some more love here. Second in assists per game, behind Rajon Rondo, and third in total assists behind Rajon Rondo and Grievous Vasquez.
Shout out Grievous Vasquez, Raptors legend. Grievous
Mm-hmm.
Vasquez. I mean, we gave the same speech, or we can give the same speech this year as we did last year. And you had great points last year, basically saying Chris Paul had mastered everything that a point guard should do. He was elite defensively. He could score on his own in the mid range, especially. He was good around the rim and was just a phenomenal passer in all aspects. Just transformed the Clippers into a contender. And of course, bad luck kind of strikes again with Blake Griffin's ankle in the first round, and they get mercy killed. And it's just year after year, either him or someone else gets injured. But this is a point where Chris Paul, his peers are Durant and LeBron James. He's better
Mm.
than Carmelo Anthony. If I look at this, I think there is a gap between him and Carmelo. I really think that Chris Paul is closer to the best in the world than that next group of guys.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And the Clippers were 40 and 26 the prior year. They're 56 and 26 this year. So like there are 10 more games to be played, or not 10 more games. There were what 16 more games to be played because it was a 66 season. Now it's an 82 game season. And every single one of those games is a win for them. Just to talk about year over year improvements. And
That
without
is so
Chris
true.
Paul, they are 6 and 6. Yeah, they were 40 and 26, and now they're 56 and 26.
Wow.
It, you know, Paul does also get ejected in Game 5 of the playoffs versus Memphis. So it's not all Blake Griffin getting injured. It's Chris Paul getting overly sorely with the refs. But like Chris Paul was a damn good basketball player, and I think people attack our point guard rankings a lot because the point guards have a lot of um, a lot of guys close, like the shooting guard list. I think anybody could tell you the top 4 shooting guards in NBA history and get it like Jordan, Kobe, West, just Wade, like in that order, pretty much. Everyone's gonna know that. Doing point guards is a lot more controversial, and we've got Chris Paul on the high end of things. Um,
Hmm.
but we do it because he was so damn good. Like
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, I agree
I
with
don't have
that. I
much more to
mean,
say.
looking at our shooting guard rankings, it's Jordan, it's Kobe, it's Wade, and then Harden, and that's usually. I mean, I think Wade and Harden kind of get flipped, but no, really, I don't see any other names brought into that conversation. Where obviously people have Chris Paul as an honorable mention on their top 10 because no one seems to understand. But looking up at the top two, and these guys feel there's something coming. There's a very scary conversation we're going to have in the next episode if 2014 is the year that's voted on, whether you prefer Durant to LeBron.
I think this may be one of the closest ever, or maybe not closest ever. This is one of the best, clearly number twos of all time. Like, not 1A, 1B, not like, is this Jokic or Giannis 2 or 3 years ago? Who's better? And then we see the Jokic ascension. This is like LeBron is one, and there should be absolutely zero debate. And this number two should be number one in so many other years. Durant, second in MVP, not a single first place vote. 28, 8, and 4.5 with a steal and a half and a block and a third, 1.3 blocks on 51, 41.6, 90.5. In January and December, 2 whole months, he averages 31 points per game on over 65% true shooting. We said true shooting added for Carmelo Anthony was 87 points on the year. For Durant, it's 394.9.
To explain true shooting added for a second, it's basically all the points over the course of a season that you would accumulate if you shot league average. So if Durant shot league average, he would miss out. What did I say? If Durant shot league average, he would miss out on 390 something points. But he was so efficient that he is way up there.
Yeah, if you replaced his volume with an average shooter, you would have 400 points less, basically.
And that's insane. And I agree with you. I mean, we should do a series. How many seasons is 2013 Durant the best player in? And is 2014? I think you probably maybe leave with the same conclusion. Even better Durant season. It sucks because I don't want to get stuck because I've already made videos saying LeBron was the best player in 2014, and God knows everyone on the internet already thinks that. Are you ready to say Durant was the better player that year?
I texted you that I was going to try to make that case, and I would love to, but I don't think I could genuinely make it.
It's so close. It's so close. It always kind of like you give the benefit of the doubt to the one on the throne. It has to be convincing, you know?
I think it also kind of comes back to a 1962 Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. If we just looked at stats and numbers, you can make the case it's Durant. But we also have to look at not end results, not judging this by wins and losses, but by who impacts their team and who can kind of elevate and do more. And like for LeBron, you want to know what player of the month LeBron is? Or which month's
All
LeBron
of
is player
them.
of the month?
Every no, Carmelo grabbed one, didn't he?
Carmelo grabbed April. LeBron
Yeah.
grabbed November, December, January, February. One vote shy of a unanimous MVP.
It's just insane. It's honestly insane. I'll go over a couple things. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was dumbfounded and speechless because LeBron is as good as people ever want to make him out to be. Going back and watching that game, I want anybody that watches LeBron this past year to go back and watch a 2013 LeBron and tell me that man is the same fucking level of player because it's not even close. It is not even close.
No, it's just not. His on-off is plus 15 on a great team. 76 games played on a 66-win team. He's first in estimated plus minus. He's first on the clutch metric. He has the clutchest playoffs ever up until Tyrese Halliburton this year. I checked the other day. Passed him up. I mean, you can lose points, so maybe it hasn't settled yet. But so just the best player at the end of games. 27-0 record from game 44 to 70, averaging 27, 8, and 8 on 58% shooting. Goes to double overtime against Sacramento, a game that I watched. The Marcus Thornton game has 48 and 16 in that double overtime win. They won a double overtime game by 12 points. That's like, it has to be the biggest margin victory for a double overtime game. And he just like decimates these teams in the playoffs. 28. What do I say? 27, 7, and 7, the entire playoffs, untouched by anybody, and has his best game, the best LeBron game, like in this closeout game 7 against San Antonio. 5 of 10 from 3, 37, 12 and 4. It's the best game score of the entire playoffs. He peaks at the very end. After all of that, he peaked at the very end.
Yeah. Maybe Anthony Edwards just needs to watch some more LeBron James to know how to have that playoff level conditioning and be ready for it.
Could be. He should get to the rim. Anthony Edwards. It's so funny. Like Edwards, like our criticism of him was he doesn't take enough threes, and he becomes like the best 3-point shooter in basketball. We're like, actually, get to the rim more, shoot more free throws. Can't win.
Figure out the balance, since young
Yeah,
blood. You'll get there.
balance is key. Why does SGH shoot so many free throws? He drives the rim a lot.
So this is the second best season by LeBron in box plus minus, VORP, and win shares, but also in league history, which some of those stats do not do the best in going across the ages, because some of the, especially win shares, some of the early 70s, late 60s, the pace just blows those numbers up. But it's the 13th greatest season all time by box plus minus, 13th greatest season all time by VORP, 21st greatest season all time by win shares. It just, this is why you watch basketball, is for a season like this. And so as much as I would gush over just how amazing Durant was, I couldn't come up with a credible case, even trying to be like an NBA contrarian, to try to vote against the LeBron year.
I have a last final question before we go. Do you think this is the best LeBron season?
Yeah.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is in my best peak series, like I walked away with 2016, 17, and 18 as his best 3-year stretch. And part of me still feels like what he was doing in the finals and throughout the playoffs was the best version of LeBron. But what makes LeBron so special is you could probably not be wrong picking either of these, like this stretch or that stretch, and they're one of the 3 best 3-year stretches of all time, because he was that good for so long. Basically, it's back to back, just insane, ridiculous peaks that other players don't even really consider having. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. All right, you want to read the list back?
Absolutely. Tony Parker at number 10, then James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Tim Duncan, Paul George, Kobe Bryant at 5, Carmelo Anthony at 4, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant at number 2, and then LeBron James at number 1.
Good list. Solid.
Good list.
Still feel bad about Steph Curry. You want to go back and relitigate that? Spend another half hour here?
Yeah, I have another half hour to kill. I think, Steph at 11 feels right.
No, the answer get out. Aaron, where can the people find you?
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter, my Patreon for this list, our all-time list, write-ups, Cameo. You can also find me there. And TikTok for if you want to vote for the next year we do.
You can find me, Nate_HoopsTemple on TikTok. You can email the show, hoopstemple@gmail.com. Love to hear from you guys. Have a great week.